Because we don't have a microscope that we can use online, I basically have taken pictures of what you see in lab and blown them up and made a PowerPoint so that I can show you what you would have seen if you had a microscope. I'm going to point out the same structures that you guys need to know if you were in lab, and then you will see very similar pictures on your exam, basically from this PowerPoint and from the PowerPoint that we talked about. If you've looked at pictures of epithelial tissue or connective tissue in previous lectures by the other instructors, I'm going to be pulling some pictures from all the PowerPoints, and that's going to be kind of your lab part of this exam. So I'm going to kind of talk you through the different types of tissues and what they look like and what to look for, and hopefully this will help you understand what they look like histologically. Remember, histology is basically the study of the tissues using a microscope, seeing their component parts. So let me make this bigger so that you guys can see. You know what I'm going to say next, right? Let me get my pen. I know when I watch videos of the other instructors doing this, I kind of laugh at them. I'm like, really, guys, can you not get your pen to work? And then, sure enough, I can't do it either, so it's just the way it is. All right, so hopefully you've watched you've watched all the videos on what epithelial tissue is, what a connective tissue is, a muscle tissue, and a nervous tissue. And this is going to kind of show you, again, what it looks like under the microscope. If you think back to an epithelial tissue, what do epithelial tissues do? They basically line organs inside your cheek. That's epithelial tissue. And when you talk about epithelial tissue, you look at the shape of the cell, and you look at how many of them there are, how many layers there are. Do you remember that from your video? Karen Richardson did that video. So in this type of epithelium, this is simple squamous epithelium. That means you have one layer of flat cells, okay? And so this is actually from a frog, kind of frog skin, and you're looking kind of down on it. And so these are your squished cells, and they're just one cell layer thick, and this is simple squamous epithelium. So on a practical, on your exam, if you saw something that looked like this, and it said, name this type of tissue, you would need to write simple squamous epithelium. Okay, I need to know that you know that's epithelial. I need to know that you know how many layers it is. I need you to tell me that you know how many, what shape the cells are. So simple squamous epithelium is what you would write on your exam. There's some other things you can also identify. On these cells, the stuff that divides the cells, that's the plasma membrane. So that's the membrane that's surrounding the cell. You can actually see that between these cells. And the dark spots in the middle, that's the nucleus. So on this, again, this slide, I may say, what are the dark spots in the middle? And you would say that's the nucleus. So make sure anything that I've got labeled on this PowerPoint is fair game. Okay, so I'm just telling you right now. So this PowerPoint is fair game for anything you need to know about lab. Now this picture, this is also simple squamous epithelia. And this time you're looking at it kind of as a side-on view. And this is the layers. It's one single flat layer of flat cells. That's your simple squamous epithelia. So you've got a view looking down on it, and a view looking kind of at it from the side. And this is another one, just I'm showing you different magnifications. This is not quite as magnified, so they look smaller. You would go back to the bigger magnification. Same thing, just get used to it. If you were here at lab in the microscope, you can make things really magnified or not so magnified. So I want to make sure you understand that it's the same thing, just maybe not as magnified. Alright, now this one, these are simple cuboidal epithelia. So what does that mean? Simple means one layer, right? Cuboidal means those squarular. That's what I like to say. They're kind of square-shaped cells. So simple cuboidal epithelia. So you have a single layer of these squarular or cuboidal cells. So one layer of cuboidal cells, simple cuboidal epithelia. The stuff between is basically connective tissue. And what you're looking at here is actually the kidney, and they've done a cross-section, and you're looking down inside the tubules where urine is flowing inside of the kidney. And so anytime you have a tube, the inside of the tube, so in this case where the urine would be, inside the tube, that's always called the lumen. Okay? The side that's facing away from the lumen, this side, is just the basal side. So you need to be able to tell which, and one more thing, the side facing the lumen is called the apical side. So you need to be able to recognize a tube and know the space inside the tube is the lumen, the side of the cell facing the tube is, the lumen is apical, facing away is the basal or the base side. If you remember back from your lecture on epithelia, epithelial cells have polarity. It means they have a top and a bottom. They have an apical side and a basal side. So you'll need to recognize the apical side and the basal side on these slides. Again, anything that's labeled is fair game. Again, this is a picture of simple cuboidal epithelia, but you're looking at it from a different view. And you really can see they're kind of squarular. They're cuboidal. This one also has cilia. These little hair-like structures, these are cilia. And remember, cilia, those little hair-like projections that kind of move and will help move things along a tube. So, for example, maybe a fallopian tube might have a cilia that's kind of helping move the egg along or something like that. So this is the cilia. The cilia always face the apical side. Always. Oh, one more thing. Dark spots, what do you think those are? Nucleus. Okay, so now you have simple columnar epithelia. So we've had simple squamous, simple cuboidal, simple columnar. So you have one layer of tall column-shaped cells. So these are one layer of these tall column-shaped cells. Again, you can see the nucleus. The space inside, again, you're looking down at the tube. The space inside is called the lumen. So this would be the apical side. And this would be the basal side. Again, this is the same simple columnar cells, but again, you're looking at it at a different angle. So you have these long, tall cells. Little cilia, again, on these. And then these are your nuclei. Simple columnar epithelia. This is the apical side, and this is the basal side, or the basement side. It's, you know, kind of the base of it. It's kind of connecting it to whatever your base layer. That's your basal side. All right, now this is a slide of inside an intestinal wall. And so the simple columnar epithelia, and there's a lot going on this slide, so you want to make sure you're kind of paying attention to what all we're looking at here. When you look at an intestine, so let's take a cross-section of intestine. So here's your person, okay? Here's their lower intestine, okay? We're going to take that tube, take the long intestine, stretch it out like a tube, and we're going to take a cross-section of it. So now we're looking at the cross-section. We're looking down inside the tube. When you look inside of a small intestine, you're going to see it kind of looks like this. It's got these what are called villi or microvilli, or these finger-like projections that kind of go out into the tube. And what that does is it increases the surface area so that you can absorb nutrients from the small intestine and take them, into the blood. And so what you're seeing here is you're seeing one of these microvilli. So one of these finger-like projections that's going out into the lumen of the intestine. You're looking at the microvilli. So when you're looking at this microvilli, you have a basement membrane, and you have these tall, simple columnar cells. So this is the basal side, and the side facing the lumen, this is the apical side. And all these little pink dots are the nuclei. Alright, so your food would be here, and then you want to absorb the food in the apical side, be transported through the basal side, and then it would go to the capillaries and on into your blood. Another thing you can see on this cell are called goblet cells. Let's spell this out, goblets. Like a wine goblet. And these are the goblet cells. Anytime you see these little white or clear cells, these are goblet cells. And they make mucus. because you want to keep your intestines kind of slick. So here's actually a goblet cell that's releasing its mucus into the small intestine. That's kind of cool, so that your intestines stay nice and slicky. The mucus also helps protect your intestines. So if you eat something that's kind of real acidic or real harsh or a hot pepper or something like that, it helps to protect the lining of your small intestine. So look for the goblet cells, be able to identify the apical side, the basal side, and this is simple columnar epithelia. Okay, so we moved on from simple. Simple means one layer, so now we're going to go with stratified. That means more than one layer. So this is stratified squamous epithelia. So layers of squished or flat cells. Squamous means flat. Multiple layers. Now this is actually a cross section looking at some skin. This is not the simple stratified squamous epithelia. Everything from here up. These are your flat cells. Lots and lots of layers of stratified squamous epithelia. So hopefully what you have kind of started to learn is in the body, organs are made up of different types of tissues, right? So your skin is actually an organ. And the topmost layer, the most superficial layer, the part that you can see, is your stratified squamous epithelium. Below what you can see is what's called the dermis. This is where, the fat part of your skin. The dermis or the connective tissue. You have connective tissue, and then below that you have adipose, which is also connective tissue. You have connective tissue. So when you look at these, when you start to look at histology, you're going to realize a lot of times you're going to see more than one type of tissue. So let's go back to a few of these other slides that we've looked at. Again, here's our simple columnar. Here, this actually, to me, I think it may be, I'm not exactly sure, but I think it's some kind of hyaline cartilage, but it may not be. But it's some kind of connective tissue, because connective tissue always connects epithelia to something else. Here's another one. Here's your simple columnar epithelia, and here's your some type of connective tissue. And this looks like adipose, actually. Yeah, that's adipose. So there's always going to be some kind of connective tissue on the basal side underneath epithelia. Alright, so that's stratified squamous. Here's another picture of stratified squamous. And I like this one because you really can see there are lots and lots of layers of squished cells, and as they migrate out, this will be the superficial or outside of the skin. This is skin. As they migrate out, they become more and more and more squished, more flattened out, and you see the layers. Now, another type of epithelia is pseudostratified columnar. And pseudostratified means, pseudo means fake. So this is fake layered. So how it gets its name is columnar. So you have these long columnar cells. But what happens is, when we looked at previous slides, all the nuclei were all lined up together and made a nice little pattern. Let me go back to one of those so you can see. See how the nuclei kind of all line up together? On this one, they don't really do that. They're kind of all, they look like there's multi-layers of nuclei. So you would almost think there might be two layers of cells. So it's fake layered. So it's pseudostratified columnar epithelium. So there's going to be a layer of tall cells with nuclei that don't line up. Okay, it looks like more than one layer. Again, here's some cilia. That means this is the apical side. This is the basal side. And again, we've got some kind of connective tissue. And this is another picture of pseudostratified columnar. Again, you see the nuclei don't line up. Here's tall columnar cells. Another example, pseudostratified ciliate columnar epithelium, and where you might find it, inside the trachea. So this is your, you have these tall cells. This is inside the trachea. So the reason you have ciliated cells inside your trachea is, when you clear your throat, every time you breathe in, all that dust, when you breathe in dust and all kind of stuff. Well, if you breathe that in, it goes down into your lungs, down your trachea, down the bronchus, into the bronchioles, into your lungs. Well, that stuff would build up after a while, and your lungs would weigh like a bazillion pounds, and that's not what you want to happen. So there's mucus that lines your trachea and your bronchus and your bronchioles, and basically they have cilia, and it sweeps that mucus. So the dust gets caught in the mucus, and then the cilia start to sweep that stuff back up the trachea. So when you clear your throat or cough, you're actually coughing up that mucus that has all the dust that you've been breathing in all day. So it keeps your lungs, again, from filling up with dust and not being very functional. So that is why we like to make sure that you see these ciliated cells inside the trachea. Again, when you look at any kind of tissue, any kind of organ, you're going to see multiple types of tissues. This is your epithelial layer. This is your connective layer. You can actually see some blood vessels. We're caught in this particular section. You can see the nuclei. So anything that I expect you to be able to know, I've labeled on this slide for you so that you can look at it. All right, adipose tissue. Adipose is what? And to me, it's the easy one to remember because it looks like bubble wrap. So look for the bubble wrap, and that's the adipose connective tissue. So if you see this on the slide, on your test, don't write epithelia. It's not any type of epithelial tissue. This is connective tissue. And this particular one, these are those big, each one of these is a fat droplet inside of an adipocyte, and that's your adipose tissue. So you have these fat-filled vacuoles, there's big fat drops, and then those push the nucleus out to the edge of the cell. So that's adipose. We have the dense, irregular connective tissue. If you watch my lecture on connective tissues, remember it's dense, so it looks real thick. It's irregular, which means it goes in all different directions. So it means it's able to have movement in many different directions. A place that you're going to kind of give you a hint here, you're going to see this in the dermis. So when you look at skin, you're going to see that right below the epithelial layer, there's going to be a layer of dermis. And a lot of times that's going to be dense, irregular tissue because you want your skin to be able to move in different directions. So that's an example of the dense, irregular. Here's this hyaline cartilage. Remember, we have different types of cartilage. We have elastic cartilage, fibrocartilage, elastic cartilage. And the one we're going to have you know for the lab part of the exam is hyaline cartilage, which is you associate with bones and found in your nose, connects your ribs to your sternum. It has this glassy kind of pink color, and it's got what looks like little bubbles inside of it. And then these bubbles are called lacunae, and inside each lacunae is a chondrocyte. Chondro means cartilage, cyte means cell. These are called cartilage-making cells. So look for the chondrocyte, look for the lacuna, and you have hyaline cartilage. Here's another picture. It's kind of a different staining. It just shows you that, you may see it pink, you may kind of see it this glassy blue color. All right, and then another connective tissue, remember, is blood. Blood is a liquid, has a liquid matrix. So you have blood cells inside of plasma, which is the liquid. So your blood cells are floating in the blood plasma, or the liquid, which is how you get blood. The pink things are the erythrocytes, or red blood cells. The big things are the leukocytes, or the white blood cells. And the little bitty things, those are platelets, and we use those to help us in blood clotting. Alright, and last but not least, again, I just want to kind of make sure you understand, when you talk about tissues, there's always going to be a lot of times more than one type of tissue on a slide. And so we're going to cover skin in my next lecture, but here's kind of the precursor to that. This is the skin slide. From here to here, all this is epithelial tissue, stratified squamous, layers of flat squished cells, and all this is connective tissue, and this particular type of connective tissue is dense irregular. So remember, when you're looking at these slides, sometimes you're going to see more than one type of tissue. But again, when I ask the question, I'll be very specific. You'll know what I'm asking. Take these slides, use this as your study guide. You'll see these exact same pictures again. and that's how we'll get through histology. All right, guys, if any questions, let me know. Good luck, and I will see you on the next slide, or the next talk. Thanks.